The stars barely moved in the quiet dark of the Trascan system. It was a dead zone. No planets, no stations, no reason for anyone to be there. So when the sensors lit up, the control crew on Relay Post 9 thought it was a glitch. Unidentified vessel just exited the drift, the technician said, staring at the display. No warp signature. No ID tag. His superior leaned over. Where did it come from? From inside the black singularity field, the tech whispered. That shut the room up. No ship entered that region and came out. It was where gravity collapsed into chaos, where entire fleets had vanished in seconds. The drift was a warning zone on every map. Enter and you don't come back. Yet here it was, a small, oddly shaped vessel slowly drifting forward. An alert shot up the line. Within hours, the Galactic Alliance War Council was called into emergency session. Not because of the ship's size, not because it had weapons sensors showed none, but because it was human. Humans weren't supposed to be out this far. The last official report had Earth still figuring out jump drives. Primitive, isolated, not a threat, just another curious species tucked in the corner of a spiral arm. So what was a human ship doing out here, surviving one of the deadliest places in the galaxy? The ship hailed them. A calm, clear voice came through, female, human, speaking perfect trade common. This is the independent vessel Dauntless, requesting peaceful contact. We have survivors on board. We need assistance. It wasn't a military tone. No demands. Just calm. Counselor Vexa of the Cairn Confederacy scowled. That's impossible. Their species isn't capable of deep drift travel. It's like handing fire to children. Counselor Czar, a feathered diplomat from the Arshiri Dominion, narrowed her eyes. And yet, here they are. They sent a tug crew to intercept. The human ship didn't resist. It docked like it had done it 100 times. Its hull was dented, scorched, mismatched in color like it had been repaired with scrap. But it worked. That's what worried the council the most. 3 humans walked out. No guards, no translators, no armor. Just breathable suits and serious eyes. They looked ordinary, a little tired, but not afraid. Their leader was a woman in her 30s, with short-cut dark hair and a patched uniform marked with the word Commander. Her name was Reyna Holt. We're not here to cause trouble, she said. We didn't know this area was restricted. We were trying to find a path home after our jump engine failed near the drift zone. We didn't think we'd survive. And yet you did, Vexa snapped. Reyna just nodded. We tend to do that. They ran scans. No advanced weapons. No cloaking. No artificial gravity manipulator. Nothing that should have let them survive. And yet they had. That night, behind closed doors, the council whispered. Do you remember how fast they moved in the last war? How they built an entire fleet in under a decade? One delegate asked. They nearly cracked gravitic fields before they even knew about neutrino storms. Another added. They learn too fast. They don't stop. Vexa leaned forward. We should have kept them grounded when we had the chance. This confirms what we feared. They're moving faster than any species ever recorded. And now they've come back from the singularity? Either it was luck, or they've figured out something no one else has. That was the moment it happened. A silent vote. Quick, cold. No trial, no broadcast, no message to Earth. Just a simple declaration buried in the security protocols of the galaxy's laws. Human ships are hereby restricted from operating beyond Core Sector Theta. No further technological exchange. No military treaties. Any further expansion will be met with quarantine protocol. It wasn't war. It was worse. It was erasure. The humans on the Dauntless were given repairs, polite smiles, and carefully worded instructions to return home. They left, but they knew something was off. Back on board, Reyna stood in silence, staring at the screen as the tug ship undocked and drifted away. Commander, her second-in-command asked. You think they bought it? Reyna looked at the data crystal in her hand, quietly copied from the council terminal. A file that shouldn't exist. It was labeled Red List. Earth Protocol. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, No. But I think we just learned the truth. What truth? She slipped the crystal into a hidden compartment behind the NAV console. That we were never supposed to make it this far. She paused. But now that we have, they don't know what to do with us. Then her comm officer called out, voice tight. Commander, there's something else. One of our passive scans picked up a ping while we were docked. Short-range transmission. Origin unknown. Just 3 words. Reyna frowned. Let's hear it. The words came through the static. Do not trust. And just like that, the Dauntless went dark and disappeared into space, heading not back to Earth, but deeper into the unknown. The Dauntless was gone. Not destroyed. Not captured. Just missing. The Galactic Alliance called it a malfunction. An engine error. Humans weren't ready for deep space, they said. They likely jumped into a star. The file was closed quietly. No more questions. But in truth, the Dauntless had left on purpose. Commander Reyna Holt wasn't heading home. She was heading away. Deeper into the regions the Alliance warned everyone to avoid. Unknown space. Silent systems. Places with names scratched off the maps. She knew they were being watched. The warning, do not trust, still echoed in her mind. Someone had sent it. Someone inside that station. It hadn't come from a human. The frequency was alien, old, encoded with a dialect no Earth linguist had ever seen. But Reyna had seen it. In one of the stolen files, there had been mention of a buried protocol. A hidden project from centuries ago. Project Hollow Star. No details. Just a name, a date, and a location. Coordinates pointed to a system long thought dead. She decided to follow it. Back at the council chambers, the story was spreading. Quietly, the Dauntless wasn't the only human ship to survive something impossible. Rumors came from border colonies, pirate channels, forgotten outposts. A mining crew from Enoran claimed they were rescued from a hull breach by a human crew in a ship shaped like a cargo hauler. But it moved like a fighter. A trade envoy from the Yulon Reach swore a group of humans dismantled a Krazen war drone with nothing but hand tools and rebuilt it into a defense system in under 2 hours. One by one, these stories added up. They don't think like we do, said Counselor Czar, who had begun to worry. They see chaos as opportunity. Vexa disagreed. They break rules. That's not brilliance. It's danger. They survived the drift. They hijacked a station's AI. And they vanished into a blind sector without leaving a trace, Czar replied. Is that not brilliance? Vexa narrowed her eyes. It's something we need to end. A quiet vote was passed again. This one even more secret. If any human ships appeared in non-core space again, they were to be captured or destroyed. No questions. No broadcast. But not all species in the Alliance agreed. The Athari, a quiet race of data historians, had kept their own records. They didn't trust the Council's fear. They remembered their first real contact with humans. An unarmed science vessel named Mira, which had drifted into their territory 5 years earlier. The crew of the Mira had no weapons. No translators. They hadn't even known they were crossing a border. But when the Athari station suffered a catastrophic power failure, the humans didn't flee. They stayed. Fixed the grid, stabilized the core, saved hundreds. They didn't ask for payment. They just smiled and said, happy to help. The Athari hadn't forgotten. So when they learned about the Dauntless, they quietly reached out. Using old tech. No central network. Just a single pulse, bouncing from relay to relay, across forbidden space. Reyna Holt, if you are out there, we want to understand. The message was received. Somewhere near the edge of the barren halo, a region of twisted stars and burned-out planets. The Dauntless stopped. Reyna stared at the coordinates. The hollow star. It wasn't a system. It was a station. Old. Massive. Orbiting a neutron star that pulsed like a heartbeat. It had no lights. No signals. Just quiet. We're going in, she said. Her crew didn't argue. They knew the stakes. The docking was rough, but they made it. Inside, the station was dark and cold. Its design didn't match any known alien style. Sharp angles. Hidden doors. Echoes that didn't match footsteps. Then they found it. A room. Walls covered in moving light. A library, maybe, but not for books. For experiences. Reyna touched one. A memory flooded into her mind. Not hers, but someone else's. A battle. Planet burning. A human child standing between two warring alien factions, holding up a broken transmitter and begging for peace. The war stopped. Just for a moment. But it stopped. Another memory. A soldier alone on a derelict ship, using her own blood to wire a relay and save a colony from being vaporized. Another. A teacher on Earth showing alien refugees how to grow food in sand. Reyna stepped back, breath caught in her throat. These are stories, she said. Real ones. The hollow star wasn't a weapon. It was proof. Proof that humans weren't just survivors. They were connectors. They took broken things, people, systems, situations, and found ways to fix them. Sometimes through war. Sometimes through hope. But always through will. Suddenly, a console lit up. One message. Simple. They will erase us to keep control. Return only when ready. Reyna knew what it meant. Earth didn't need to prove itself through war. The Council feared human strength, but they hadn't seen the real power. Not yet. She turned to her crew. We're not going back. Then where? Her pilot asked. She smiled. To find others who think like us. To build something new. Quiet. Hidden. Strong. The Dauntless powered up. Lights blinking back to life. It vanished again. And across the galaxy something had begun. The Athari waited. They had sent the message weeks ago. A simple pulse carried through old comm relays, hidden from the Council's eyes. Every day they checked the silent frequencies, hoping, wondering if the human ship was still out there. Most in the Alliance believed the Dauntless had been destroyed. Some hoped it had. Then, without warning, the reply came. It wasn't words. It was a set of coordinates. Deep in the outer reach, past the edge of any map territory. The Athari didn't hesitate. They sent a single ship, unmarked, unarmed, and cloaked in silence. The journey took days through dangerous space, but at the exact spot, they found it. A human vessel hovering near an asteroid belt shaped like a broken ring. The Dauntless. Its hull looked rougher now. Scars from encounters unknown. Strange plating covered parts of the ship. Alien alloys. Designs that didn't match any blueprint. It had changed. Evolved. So had Reyna Holt. She met the Athari envoy aboard her ship, standing in a dim cargo bay lit by soft blue lights. She looked tired, older, but calm. Focused. I didn't think anyone would come, she said. We wanted to understand, said the Athari envoy, a being of shifting green skin and eyes that never blinked. Why did you disappear? Reyna looked at the stars beyond the bay doors. Because the galaxy isn't ready to see what we are. Not yet. The Athari watched her closely. Then tell us. What are you? Reyna gave a small smile. A problem the Council doesn't know how to solve. She told them everything. About the drift. The ban. The warning message. The hollow star. She showed them pieces of the library. Those strange glowing records filled with moments of human sacrifice, risk, and hope. The Athari listened, recording everything. Why show us this? They asked. Because you helped us once, Reyna said. You didn't treat us like a virus or a mistake. And because I think you're starting to ask the same questions we are. The Athari paused. Like what? Why is the Council so afraid of a species that hasn't even asked for power yet? The silence after her words said everything. The Athari had always trusted facts, not feelings. But this wasn't just fear. This was control. The Council wasn't reacting to a threat. They were trying to stop a future. What do you want us to do? The envoy asked. Reyna handed them a sealed case. Take this to your archives. Hide it. Protect it. If anything happens to us, make sure it survives. The Athari nodded slowly. We will. But what will you do? Reyna turned and looked at the ship's core lights. We'll find others. Not just humans. Any species the Council has silenced, cast out, or forgotten. She stepped closer. We'll build something new. Quiet for now, but strong. And when the time comes, we won't fight to rule. We'll fight to free. The envoy left the ship with the data case, unsure of what they had just joined, but certain it was bigger than they imagined. Meanwhile, back on Earth, something was stirring. The Dauntless disappearance had not gone unnoticed. It had been quietly celebrated by some in the Council, but not everyone believed it was gone. Among Earth's secret military networks, a few senior officers had started piecing things together. Private scans, strange pings from unknown systems, quiet whispers of a crew that had survived the impossible. One man, Admiral Yoren Graves, knew the signs. He had trained Reyna Holt, and he knew she wouldn't vanish without purpose. He opened a black file in his private terminal. It was marked, Fallback Protocol, Ghost Fleet. It had only 2 instructions. Assume hostile galactic interference. Prepare Earth for what's coming. Graves didn't know exactly what Reyna had found, but he knew one thing. If she was hiding, it meant the game was changing. He began to call in old favors. Scientists, pilots, engineers, people who had been part of Earth's deep space initiative. The team that had once designed faster-than-light communication before the Council blocked it. We're bringing it back, Graves told them. All of it. Someone asked why. Graves looked at the star chart glowing on the wall. Because someone out there just realized we're not supposed to make it this far. And I want to know why. At the same time, deep in Alliance space, Vexa stared at the growing list of rumors. New colonies reporting strange visitors, helping rebuild failed reactors. Pirate networks whispering about a ghost ship that could disable defense grids without firing a shot. A mining world swearing it was saved by unknown allies. Every report had one thing in common. A ship with mismatched hull plates. Small crew. No flag. No name. But Vexa knew the name. Dauntless. She leaned back in her chair and muttered, "They're still alive." And this time she wouldn't wait for a vote. The lights inside Counselor Vex's chamber dimmed as she opened the encrypted file. Red warnings blinked along the edge of the screen. Unauthorized data leak. Source. Unknown. It was a stolen report. Classified. She scrolled through page after page of strange logs and surveillance clips. Human activity. Unofficial. Off-grid. It showed their ships landing on forbidden worlds, helping small colonies, even repairing alien tech that had stumped engineers for years. Then came the video feed. A shaky image from a hidden drone showed 3 humans in makeshift armor standing in the middle of a collapsed alien station. Smoke filled the air. Sparks rained down from torn cables. An automated turret swung toward them. Instead of running, one human stepped forward with a handheld scanner. He tapped a few keys. The turret froze, shut down, then turned and shot 2 rogue bots behind the humans. The file ended with a still shot of the human team walking away, dust-covered and calm. Vexa leaned forward, her hands tightening into fists. They're not supposed to be able to do this. A message alert popped up. It was from one of her informants. Counselor, they're building something. We intercepted fragments of human code from an uncharted relay. Advanced systems. Possibly artificial intelligence. It doesn't match anything they've shared publicly. She closed her eyes for a moment, then sent a single reply. Send hunters. No more warnings. Far across the stars, on a cold desert moon, the Dauntless had just finished unloading supplies to a hidden base buried in the cliffs. The base wasn't much, just a few metal walls, makeshift antennas, and a command table built from scrap. But what it held was far more valuable. Inside the control room, Reyna Holt stood over a glowing display. Around her, engineers from 3 different alien races worked in silence. Not soldiers, not rebels, thinkers, problem solvers, survivors. We've got a signal spike, her comm officer said. Old relay, encrypted message trying to trace our location. Alliance, Reyna asked. Not a full trace, but close. She took a breath. Shut down all external links. No more broadcasting. We're quiet now. The team obeyed without question. She turned to one of the alien scientists, a pale-skinned creature named Arlek from the ruined world of Davar. Is the core ready? Arlek nodded slowly. Almost, But Reyna, what we're building, it's not just a tool. It's a voice. Reyna smiled. That's the point. For months, they had been collecting broken systems, leftover tech, fragments of lost knowledge. From humans, from outcasts, from any species who had been shut out by the Alliance's silence. Now they were putting it together into something new. Not a weapon. Not exactly. More like a system that could learn, think, and adapt. One that could connect minds. Share information in ways no one had ever tried before. It was part AI, part signal net, and part memory archive. They called it the Lattice. If it worked, it wouldn't just help people survive. It would help them find each other. Build, create, share. Reyna didn't want war, but she wasn't going to wait for someone else to protect the forgotten. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Graves had called an emergency meeting. 12 of Earth's top minds sat around the table. Scientists, diplomats, war veterans, engineers. Most hadn't seen each other in years. Graves walked to the front and placed a simple message on the table. They're afraid of us. He looked around the room. Not because we're violent. Not because we're reckless. But because we change things. We adapt. We make new rules. He played a clip of the Hollow Stars recordings, filtered through Reyna's stolen files. The room went silent. They don't fear what we are, he said. They fear what we might become. One scientist asked, so what do we do? Go to war? No, Graves said. We prepare. Quietly. Smartly. We build our own networks. We protect our people. And when the time comes, we decide what kind of species we want to be in this galaxy. Back on the desert moon, Reyna received a signal burst. It was scrambled, but the signature was unmistakable. Earth. She opened the message. We're awake. We're with you. Stay strong. Reyna smiled. They weren't alone anymore. But just as the base went dark for the night, a sensor alarm echoed across the canyon. 6 ships had entered orbit. No ID. No hails. And they were descending fast. Reyna grabbed her comm, everyone underground. Now. The team scattered. Lights went red. Doors sealed. Outside, black ships touched down, quiet as shadows. The hunters had arrived. The ships landed without sound, their black hulls absorbing all light. No logos, no markings, just silent, sharp machines made for one purpose, hunt and erase. Reyna stood near the sealed entrance to the underground base, her hand on the emergency lock. She waited. Nothing moved at first. No footsteps, no voices. Then a small drone floated past, scanning the area. It hovered by a broken crate, paused, then zipped away. Seconds later, 6 tall figures emerged from the lead ship. Their armor shimmered dark blue. Their eyes glowed white. They weren't soldiers. They were exterminators. Council hunters. Reyna whispered into her comm. No one fires. No one moves. Let them look. Beneath the sand-covered base, her team waited in silence. Lights dim. Power low. Breaths held. The hunters split up, moving through the dusty camp. They scanned the walls, poked at old equipment, and left tiny tracker beads behind. One walked within a meter of the hidden hatch. Reyna didn't move, didn't blink. After what felt like hours, the lead hunter paused. He turned toward the desert wind, lifted his wrist, and tapped a command. The message was simple. Nothing found. Moving on. They returned to their ships and left just as quietly as they had arrived. Only after the hum of the engines faded into space did Reyna allow herself to breathe again. The underground doors opened, and her team spilled out into the night air, shaken but safe. They'll be back, said Arlek, brushing dust from his coat. Next time they'll search deeper. Then we have to move faster, Reyna replied. Inside the base, the team worked through the night. Pieces of tech lit up. Code ran across screens. The lattice was nearly ready, but something was missing. Connection. The system could share knowledge between users, but they needed a trigger, something that would activate it across long distances instantly, beyond any known communication limits. One of the engineers, a young human named Ren, raised his hand. I might have something, he said. Back on Earth, we were working on pulse resonance tech. Tiny bursts of emotion, fear, hope, panic, that can be translated into raw data. Reyna tilted her head. You're saying the lattice could react to feelings? In a way, Ren nodded. It's messy, but emotions are fast and strong. If we tune it right, a single spark of hope could carry a message farther than any radio ever could. Everyone stared at him. Hope as a signal? Arlek asked. Ren shrugged. It worked once, during a quake on Titan base. A guy trapped under rubble thought of his daughter. And somehow, that thought triggered the emergency beacon. They got to work. Day turned into night. Nights passed in silence, interrupted only by short-range scouts' warning of patrols nearby. Then, finally, it was ready. The lattice. It didn't look like much. Just a central node the size of a backpack, glowing soft gold. But it pulsed, like a heartbeat. Waiting. Reyna stepped forward. We built this from scrap, forgotten tech, and borrowed time, she said. It's not perfect. It might fail. But if it works, it changes everything. She picked it up carefully and strapped it to her back. Now we test it. The team gathered outside. The stars above were cold and clear. Perfect night. Where's the signal going? Someone asked. Reyna smiled. Everywhere. She closed her eyes and focused. Not on coordinates, not on data, but on Earth. Her memories, her people, her reason for surviving. The lattice responded. With a low hum, it lit up brighter. The gold glow became a beam, shooting upward into the sky. The stars seemed to ripple. At that same moment, across the galaxy, a child on a refugee moon woke from a dream and saw a glowing message on her broken datapad. You're not alone. A pilot stranded in deep space saw his NAV system flicker to life with a new path home. A young alien boy being forced to train for war stopped, turned to the sky, and whispered, "Who sent that?" And on Earth, Admiral Graves stood in his command room as every inactive satellite blinked online for 2 seconds. Just long enough to display one phrase. We are still here. The lattice had worked. But deep in council space, Vexa stared at the reports flooding in. Unauthorized pings. Rogue signals. Uplinks lighting up across dead systems. She slammed her hand on the table. Find them. Now. She didn't know where they were yet. But she knew one thing. Humanity had just lit a fire. And the galaxy had seen the first spark. The fire had started, and now it was spreading. Across the galaxy, whispers turned into questions. Who had sent the signal? Who still dared to reach out when the council had made silence the law? In backwater stations and forgotten colonies, people began to talk. The message, "We are still here," appeared on broken screens, old terminals, and even inside old AIs long thought dead. And everyone who saw it knew exactly who it was from. The humans. They hadn't vanished. They hadn't given up. They were fighting not with weapons but with something stronger. Connection. Hope. But the council didn't see it that way. To them, it was rebellion. Counselor Vexa stood at the head of a darkened war room. Around her, holograms of her closest commanders flickered. They are using stolen tech. Unknown systems. And now, they've created a network that bypasses our security. A general leaned forward. We believe the signal came from Sector 9X. A dead zone. Send a fleet, Vexa ordered. No warnings. Erase everything in that sector. She ended the call and stared out the window. So, Reyna Holt, this is how you want to play. But Reyna wasn't hiding. She was moving. The team had broken down the desert base hours after the signal burst. Everything was packed. The Dauntless was loaded with the lattice core and the only copy of its code. They had no more time. Their next stop was a quiet planet on the edge of the dimming belt. A peaceful trade hub where small species gathered to barter, laugh, and stay far away from politics. Reyna hoped they still had that luxury. The Dauntless landed in the shadow of a mountain range. Locals looked up in awe, whispering to one another. Humans weren't common here. Some thought they were myths. Others had only seen them in old vids. Many had never seen one at all. When Reyna stepped out with her crew, no one stopped her. She walked to the town center, where a group of traders were already waiting. Word traveled fast. One of the elders, a short creature with orange fur and bright silver eyes, approached. "You are the spark," he said quietly. Reyna nodded. "We're looking for those willing to carry it." He looked around, then pointed to the sky. "You've already lit the stars." That night, Reyna met with delegates from over a dozen species. Small ones, hidden ones, the kinds that had no voice in the Galactic Council. They listened, they asked questions, and most of all, they shared their own stories. One by one, they admitted what Reyna already knew. They had been ignored, forgotten, replaced, and they were tired of it. "We don't want war," Reyna told them. "We want change. We want a galaxy where the Council doesn't decide who matters and who doesn't." A quiet cheer went up, but the celebration didn't last. A message came through, urgent, loud, and impossible to miss. "Warning. All vessels in Sector 9X. Flee immediately. Council fleet inbound." Reyna stood. They found the signal site. Arlek's voice cracked through the comm. "We have to assume they'll track the next burst." "We don't stop," Reyna said. "We split." She looked around at the gathered species. "If they find one of us, the others carry the message. No single ship, no single system, no single mind holds the truth. We all do." One trader raised a hand. "Then what do we call ourselves?" Reyna didn't hesitate. "The Lattice." They agreed. By morning, every ship that could fly left with a copy of the signal core. Tiny, harmless-looking nodes, but powerful. Reyna left last. The Dauntless climbed into the stars once more, quiet and steady. But far above the peaceful world, Council ships had already arrived. A blockade formed. Reyna didn't run. She opened a channel. "This is Reyna Holt of the human vessel Dauntless. You don't have to do this." Vex's face appeared on screen, calm and cold. "You are destabilizing the galaxy." "No," Reyna said. "We're waking it up." Vexa gave a signal. Missiles launched. Reyna closed the channel. "Brace for jump." A surge of light wrapped the ship as the new jump system, a prototype rebuilt from scavenged tech, flared to life. The Dauntless vanished moments before the blasts hit. The Council destroyed the city below, but the spark was already gone, and the stars were watching. The destruction of the peaceful trade world shook the galaxy. It had no weapons, no fleets, no leaders, just families, traders, and workers. But the Council wiped it out anyway just to stop a message. And the galaxy noticed. The lattice signal kept spreading. Even faster now. From relay to relay, ship to ship, mind to mind. It wasn't a weapon. It was an idea. That no species should be silenced. That survival wasn't just about strength. It was about standing together when the powerful tried to control everything. Across distant stars, the message kept appearing. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. You matter. Small worlds, once too afraid to speak, began rising up. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats started to defect from Council outposts. The lattice became a movement, quiet but growing. Earth, now fully awake to what was happening, no longer hid. Admiral Graves appeared in a broadcast that reached every known sector. "This is humanity," he said. "You tried to erase us. You feared what we could become. Now we stand with every species you cast aside. We will not fight for control. We will fight for freedom. Not with fear, but with fire." Reyna Holt watched the broadcast from the bridge of the Dauntless. Her crew stood beside her, silent but proud. She had started this with nothing but a stolen file and a few pieces of broken tech. Now the whole galaxy was listening. She opened a channel to the lattice. "Today, the Council will try to crush us again. Let them. We won't run. We'll be everywhere. Every signal, every system, every star. This isn't about Earth anymore. This is about everyone who was ever told they didn't belong." The response came instantly. 1,000 voices from across the galaxy replied at once. "We are the lattice." The Council didn't stay quiet. They sent out their fleets. Massive, cold, trained for war. But they weren't prepared for what came next. They expected armies. They got ideas. The Lattice didn't fight with guns. It fought with truth. It hacked council broadcasts and replaced them with messages of peace and unity. It unlocked old tech that had been locked away for centuries. Healing machines, food replicators, energy sources. It gave the people what the council kept hidden. Even council soldiers began to question their orders. Why were they hunting unarmed ships? Why were they burning cities filled with children? Some walked away. Others joined the Lattice. Vexa watched it all unfold from her private war chamber. Her control was slipping. The old way was breaking. She sent one final order: capture Reyna Holt. Bring her in alive. But Reyna had one last move. She flew the Dauntless to the center of Alliance space, straight toward the Council's main hub. Everyone thought she was attacking. Instead, she broadcasted one message. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to speak. Against all orders, someone let the channel stay open. She stood on the bridge, face steady, eyes sharp. For years, you said we were too dangerous, too fast, too unpredictable. Maybe we are. But you never asked why we fought so hard to survive. It's not to conquer. It's to belong. She paused. You tried to silence us. You banned us. But you made one mistake. You underestimated how far we'd go to protect not just ourselves, but everyone you pushed aside. Behind her, stars glowed with signals from 1,000 ships, now carrying the Lattice core. The sky itself seemed to shine. This is your last chance, she said. Not to surrender, but to change. Then she cut the signal. The council chamber fell into chaos. Some demanded her ship be destroyed. Others just watched the stars. Then something happened no one expected. A member of the council, a species known for silence, stood and spoke. I support her words. Another followed. Then another. Vexa tried to shut it down. But the vote had already begun. The council split. And that was all it took. Change doesn't start with war. It starts with one voice. Then another. Then 1,000. The Lattice had no capital. No flag. No army. But it had people. And people change everything. The Dauntless vanished once more after that day. No one knew where it went. Some say Reyna returned to Earth. Others say she flew beyond the edge of the stars, looking for those still waiting to be heard. But her signal remained, still echoing, still glowing in dark corners. And every time someone found it, they understood the truth. Humanity had not been too dangerous. They had been too powerful in the one way that mattered most. They never stopped believing. Not in war, not in power, but in each other. And in that, they had become unstoppable.